Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. On today's video, we're going to get inside from this cold blustery day and we're going to do a small test restoration project using some new laser equipment in anticipation of a much larger farm implement restoration project. So come along, let me give you some details. So if you've watched the channel for a while, you know that back up here in the valley, we've got our sawmill, new sawmill shed station. We've got the retreat all the way back. And as we try to get started on these projects, I keep recognizing there's more equipment that I need to do these things remotely. And the amount of concrete work we're going to need to do is significant. And what's really neat is my folks, as they like to beat the back roads of West Virginia, they found this awesome 3-point hitch hydraulic concrete mixer that they got a great deal on it. These things brand new are multiple thousands of dollars, and I think they paid $500, $600 for this. A little rough, needs to have some TLC done to it, but has some really great bones. So obviously, bit of surface rust. It's PTO hydraulic, it's PTO driven, so the drum spins via the PTO shaft, but it dumps via hydraulics. And of course, just added third function to the back of my tractor, so that works. The gentleman they bought it off of actually just put brand new hydraulic lines on it. But that's the only thing that's brand new. The thing that excites me the most about this is the size. This is a lot of concrete in here. I haven't done the measurement yet, but this is substantial compared to some of the smaller cement mixers you can get. But some of the TLC it needs is not only rust and resurfacing, recoating, but you can see we've got a couple small holes here that appear to be drilled out and then rusted. So probably need a patch here because that's our thinnest little spot. I think this is probably where the drum's set like it is right now on this guy's farm forever, and that's where the water collected and it weeped out. Cause that area to rust. So that's why I store it tipped over. I'll tip it over here in a second when we go back. But to be able to restore this, get all the rust off of it, cut the rust out, and of course weld back a patch, then we need to have that equipment, and I need to figure out the expertise. Check out the old chain drive for the PTO. The tensioning block is literally a block. It's a wooden block. So we're going to do some upgrades there as well. Maybe put a tensioning wheel or a little pulley or maybe even another sprocket. So in trying to figure out exactly what tools I need to be able to do that big restoration project, I started doing the research, and serendipitously, or I prefer providentially, Xlaserlab reached out to me and said, hey, we've got a product we'd like you to try. Is this something that would work on your farm? And it's like, actually, I think it might. So what they sent is the Xlaserlab X1Pro. And this is a 3-in-1 machine. So it is a laser welder, it is a laser cutter, like a plasma cutter, but with laser, and it is also a laser cleaner. 700 watts, can run off 120, 240, and comes with a separate wire feed mechanism that can feed the wire for welding, aluminum, stainless, plate steel, carbon steel, all the different things, which I'm still learning about. So I may say something that sounds ignorant to you guys that are fabricators. But separate system there. The business end of the machine, of course, is the laser emitter. Has multiple tips that you can put on for different types of welding. Of course, your cutting tip, and then you can use a tip or not use a tip for cleaning. This is a fiber optic cable. So unlike welders and plasma cutters, instead of being just electric, it's actually fiber optic because it's passing the light through. So you got to be a little gentle with that. And to function, it does require compressed air or shielding gas. So for welding, you need shielding gas, either argon or nitrogen. For cutting and cleaning, you just need compressed air. So I've plumbed a hose from my air compressor, my shop air compressor, that I can bring over here and plug in. That compressed air is necessary to do the cutting and the cleaning. So Dad came down and helped me the other day. We got it wired up, got a new outlet installed over here. I try to get away from all the sawdust as much as possible when we're doing the welding and laser fire now. Wood shop and laser and plasma cutter and welder, they don't go well together. So we're going to work on this end where there's less dust and less sawdust. But as we got it set up, we started testing it. We were doing some cleaning on some really thick angle iron, 1/4 inch, I believe. Took a saw blade from an old tile saw and was able to just cut it, a portion of that right off with the cutter. Stripped some paint off of it. Just played around with it to see what it can do in the cutting and cleaning area. So what I want to do in today's video is a real-world test of the cleaning aspect of the 3-in-1 and kind of get an idea of what it's going to take to clean, to remove all the rust from the bigger project. And so what I want to do today with you guys is I've got a couple of old framing squares here, and you can tell which one I keep in the shop and which one I keep in the near the sawmill. Sometimes I accidentally leave this one out at the sawmill. So it is a little rusty. It has a paint coating on it, so it's a combination of paint and rust that's built up on it. And this one that stays in the shop is an old one. This is actually my great uncle's, and it's just got a little bit of surface rust on it because of the humidity down here in my shop. But we're going to clean these and kind of do a restoration of it. New paint, try to get them all cleaned up and straightened out. That one's got a little bit of a bend in it. But I want to bring you guys along with that, and we'll use the laser cleaner to get all the rust and paint off of it, get it back to a clean steel, and then put some coatings on it. So use this red panel to kind of show better contrast of what we're dealing with. So that's the framing square that stays out by the mill. So again, some dirt, some rust, and the paint has been flecking off of it. Both sides look pretty rough. And then the shop square, which is just a little bit of rust. So we'll get it cleaned up. All right, so we'll get our air started up. All right, so we got the air compressor all filled up, so we won't have to talk over that. And we also have the system powered up and a little workstation here working over the concrete. Don't work over the tile because as your laser passes through, it can obviously melt your tile. Ask me how I know. But we'll start with the shop square first and see if we can just lift some of that rust off, get that to a good surface, and then we'll take on the big boy here. So while I say this system is a fairly complicated system, the interface is intuitive. So you can see it's a touch screen, so you've got your welding settings, cutting, or cleaning. So you just choose the function you want to do and you do a confirm. And so here with cleaning, we have our power, our frequency, our duty cycle, and our width, the width of beam, how wide it's going to actually cast a beam as it cleans. Duty cycle and frequency, I haven't messed with that. That's their default settings, so I'm not really ready to explore that yet. Power, of course, is super important. We're going to back power down. You can either just bump it down a step at a time, or you can just touch it and the touch screen, and it brings up a touchpad here. So let's go 45%. And then we're going to power it up. It's going to tell us to make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. And then we can do a power. And we see we've got everything going. We've got connectivity. So that is this safety ground clamp. Since we're not welding and we're having contact with our surface, we're not going to clamp this to the material that we're cleaning. We're going to clamp it to the gun to complete the circuit there. A lot of emergency A lot of safety features. There's an emergency shut-off here. There's actually a remote shut-off that's magnetic. And so if you're working further away and you need to be able to shut it down, you can do so. So the Xlaserlab X1 Deluxe kit comes with some additional elements. There's an apron. There's welder's helmet with the laser lens, and then of course the goggles here. And these are all laser rated, so you don't want to just take a regular welding helmet and use it. In fact, if you look at the lenses themselves, they are imprinted with the frequency of the laser. So they're specific, I don't know if that's showing up on the camera, but they're specific to the laser frequency. So if you don't get theirs, make sure you find some that are compatible or aligned with that. I'll be back. So we're ready to go. Let's, like I said, we set the power down to about 45%. We're going to test that first with this one because it's not as corroded, and then we'll see how that does. So that first pass did a light removal. The lighting's pretty lousy here. Product does get hot, so that's one thing you got to watch over. You don't want to heat it up too much where you can cause warpage. So I'm going to raise the power on that. So power and distance away from the material, of course, comes into play. So let's bump the power up a little bit and see if we can get a little cleaner finish on that. Let's go up to 65%. So that's definitely given us a better clean there. You can kind of see that sheen compared to where I stopped. The rust line there just below 15 inches. And then how we've been able to clear down to clear metal. So I think that's a good setting. Let's go ahead and do the whole thing. Now I'm going to let that cool down a little bit, and the reason why is we don't want to create warpage. And I'm going to show you, like an idiot, the first thing I tested was, oh, let's blast some of the rust off my saw blades that I leave on the mill. Well, it does great removing the rust, but if you have the power too high, you get too close, and you stick around in one spot, then you get this. So that's blade totally deformed. I cooked it. So we don't want that to happen. So you can see some of the rust build up there, especially in the numbers. So I'll stay real detailed in here when we clean that one little spot, so see how it goes. All right, so let's swap. Let that one set aside. We're going to take the old crusty rusty here. See what we can do with it. It is really warm. I can feel that through my leather glove. Now, ideally, you want to do this with good ventilation, and I could turn on my big dust collector, but then that's all we'd hear was my dust collector. So, sacrificing my lungs for the sake of good video. No, it's actually not too bad. A little bit of rust, surface rust. But let's see what we have here. All right, so we've got a little bit of crispy chicken here. Let's take a wire brush. We may bump the power up a little bit. Blast through some. It looks like, I think there's still chunks of paint on that. Well, let's see. Go to 85. What's crazy is the paint that it blasted off of there, or that it burned off of there. I thought I had gnats in the shop. The little wispies were flying around. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Those aren't gnats. If you guys can see those that debris floating around. So it looks like, I think the flame is a pretty good indicator of how much debris and material still needs to be removed. So as you saw there on pass number 1, flamed up real big, and then pass number 2 and subsequent pass didn't flare up nearly as much. So yeah, I think that's just discoloration that we'll be able to get with some light sanding. I'm going to let that cool down before we flip it over and do the other side. Alright, so while we're waiting for that to cool, I want to play around with it. I know you guys want to see me play around with it too. I've got some 1/8 inch steel, and I believe this is 1/4 inch. Yes, 1/4 inch. Let's see what we can do cut-wise. See if we can cut some of that off. So we're going to go back to our mode selection. We're going to change to cutting. Confirm. And it's just reminding us, don't cut vertically. You want to cut at an angle. That way you don't destroy or you don't damage the laser, shooting slag and other stuff back up in it. 100% power. We're just going to leave everything the way it is. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add our cutting tip, which just screws into the barrel of our laser. You can see there, nice fine point. Let's try using a straight edge. Nice. Let's try the 1/4 inch. Probably need to go a little slower. I think the thing likes a little bit of yeah. Not the cleanest of cut on a 1/4. So you can see where I was cutting that strap steel, what it does to the concrete when it penetrates. That light beam just keeps on going. All right. Oh yeah, cold, cold, cold. Let's flip it over and do the other side. So there were a couple spots where there's actually some caked on clay. Yeah. So, cook that clay. So let's get that off of there. We'll wire brush that real quick. We'll hit it again. Yeah, a couple spots where that clay was protecting or shielding the rust underneath, so we'll hit those again. So obviously I'm going to keep playing around with the machine, keep adjusting, getting dialed in, try to improve my fabrication, metalwork experience. I have very little of that. But I'll document as we go along. When we start working on the cement mixer, we'll definitely utilize this, document that. But also, we're going to kind of do head-to-head comparison. Got a brand new sandblaster right here. We're going to try it out and just see, is there a good fit? Is this a complete replacement for this? Is there a time that you use a sandblaster and time that you use a laser cleaner? So we'll just see how that works out. And of course, I'll invite you guys to come with us. Well, obviously, if you want to know more about the X1 Pro, I'll put links down below in the video description. But we're not going to stop here. We're going to keep going. We'll wait for one framing square to cool off, but we're going to start working on the other. And I just want to show you some of the details. So, there's carbon, there's a little bit of ash, dust, whatever you want to call it, on it. So we're going to wipe it down, probably do a light, high grit sanding, so nice smooth sanding there, so we can get some good paint adhesion. So on our first square, that was just a little bit of surface rust. You can see here as I run my hand across it, just the amount of carbon. So we want to get that off of there. We'll take some 300 grit. I'm going to hit that lightly. Yeah, I would say that blasted a lot of gunk over there. All right, so I took it outside and wiped it down with some solvent. Got it all clean. Turned my rag black with all the carbon ash or dust or whatever you want to call it that we burned off. This is an old Stanley. As I think I mentioned, it's my great uncle's, he passed years ago, but I got a lot of his old tools, which is really cool. That's back when Stanley actually meant something. I noticed, I was looking at the stamp, the patent stamp. Is it going to show up? But it talked about the edges are hardened, and that's why this thing feels so much more substantial to the other two framing squares I have. So I covered up the X1 Pro so we don't get overspray on it. We're going to turn off the fire so we don't blow ourselves up with aerosol paint. And we can't have, it wouldn't be Red Tool House if we didn't have some red tools. So I don't want to put too much on it. Obviously, you don't want to fill in the numbers. In fact, what I'm trying to do is I'll come back after this is dry, and we'll take a bit of black, and I want to try to spray in the numbers. Just to spray paint it black after the red's dry, spray paint it black, but then wipe it off immediately with a quick pass with a rag and see if that'll just lay in the numbers. If it doesn't work, then I can take the X1 Pro and zip all the paint back off of it and try it again. So square number 2 has so much ash and soot built up on it. We're going to wire brush it first. All right, so we're going to let those hang around dry a little bit. This one's actually a Johnson, from Johnson. Where did it go? Yeah, Johnson Level and Tool, made in the USA. Its numbers and all of its markings aren't as deep as the Stanley. So it's going to fill in a bit, I believe, because the way that it's worn down, and notice the J in Johnson's kind of filled in. All right, so first coat looks pretty good on the Stanley. Angle a little better here. Letters aren't filled in. Good coating of paint. The Johnson, because we blasted so much, you can see it's got some texture. So I think I'm going to give it another coat. All right, so both of these are dry. I think we'll start with the Johnson first and try it. That way, if it screws something up, then I haven't screwed up the good one. So the idea is to spray some black on it and wipe it off. I don't know if I need to use some paint thinner on my on the rag that I'm going to wipe or not. So like I said, we'll do a little test first and see. And we're not going to do it on my table saw either. I think we're going to need some paint thinner, y'all. All right, so I'm getting a little bit of overspray on the rest of it, so I think I just need to do the whole thing, wipe it down. So I'm not really a big fan of how that turned out. There's probably a better way to do that. Some places it filled in. You can see, I don't know if you can see that. Some of that gradient got filled in down here where the numbers are. These numbers haven't gotten worn out so badly. They filled in nicely. But then also the scratches, they filled in. So I don't think I'm going to do that to the Stanley. All right, so I think what I'm going to do, just to call this good, is I'm going to put a coat of clear, satin clear on it, just as an extra protection so the red doesn't scratch off. And that'll do it. So, all right, let's take them down here and see what our finished product looks like. Let's see what we can do with the lighting. So my attempt with black probably wasn't the best, but it actually turned out pretty good. I mean, the numbers still show up fine. What's interesting here, there's a good, right here at the 15. Of course, that was a rust that we blasted off, so that's the pitting from oxidizing of the square. So the laser removed all the rust, but of course it's not going to fill in the pits where the rust. So you can see there between the 10 and the 9 that a little bit of rust. There's where I had to run. I can sand that out if I need to. But you can see just a little bit of the pitting from the rust. My sweaty fingers. Yeah, not too bad there. And the Stanley, of course, since it didn't have really heavy-duty rust on it, it came out great. So I'm glad I didn't try to do the black on it, because it looks fine the way that it is, and the numbers are very clear. All the details are very clear. Even all the additional measurements. Trying to get it so you guys can see it with the light. Those discolorations there, that's my little sweaty hands where I'm holding it, because my hands are hot and these are cold. So yeah, it turned out really good. In fact, we'll even look at the maker's mark here. See if you guys can see it, because it's pretty visible. Yeah, there's the maker's mark right there. So this was a good test. Obviously just a simple, very simple project, but it was a good test just to get my feet wet with using a laser cleaner. And I think it's going to have pretty good application, not only for our big project, but for other things. I've been playing around with doing some paint stripping on wood. I haven't done any footage of that yet, but we'll get into that as well. But yeah, really happy with how this turned out. Well, obviously, if you want to know more about the X1Pro, there's a link down in the video description. Go check it out. And I appreciate Xlaserlab sending that to me. That's going to be a fun addition to the workshop. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I pray you all have a great week. Take care.